Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, but we're going to head way north for this one to a little place called Kalix, and we're revisiting a brewery who are very small. They don't even brew 10,000 litres of beer per year, but the beers that I've had from these guys before have been really pretty impressive actually, and I'm very curious to see what this one has in store for us because it is a little bit more of an unusual style, I have to say. So for this review then we are going to go to Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri, and we're having a taste of their Father of Serpents, which comes in at 10.4% ABV, and they're describing it as a sour wheat wine. So yeah, this one should be really quite interesting. Now there's a bit of an odd thing happened with this beer because I was doing my local and small scale order that I do every month for Systembolaget, and I was preparing the one for April. And you know, it just kind of came across my head. You know, I haven't had anything from Jämmerdalen for quite a little while, and then I found that they had this one and there was another one as well, and I put this one in my basket, and then I got a message through the Facebook page from Erik Bengtsson, who was the guy a couple of years ago that messaged me and said, oh, you need to check out Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri, and he was recommending this beer actually. So it was kind of strange how that came about. This brewery just came into my head, and then just as if, you know, just very soon after that, Erik messaged me to say check out this beer. So it must be a good one. You know, Erik has a lot of experience with this brewery, and he was telling me this is one that I really need to try actually. So shout out to Erik once again. Thank you for telling me about this brewery a couple of years back, or whenever it was. I honestly can't remember. Was that maybe 2018 or so that he told me about this brewery? But yeah, this is one of the great things. Having people like this who will tell you what breweries to check out is awesome, because in Sweden there's about 400 breweries these days, so it's very difficult to keep up to date with all the different things that are going on. So as I say, thank you to all of you guys who give me the recommendations, because quite often you'll discover random little things like a little brewery like Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri, and these guys, as I say, they've got some very nice stuff actually. A specialist sour and Belgian beer brewery actually. So yeah, really curious to see what this beer has in store for us today, and as I say, thank you to Erik for recommending this one. This one is a 10.4% sour wheat wine, which is something you are not going to see very often at all. The Father of Serpents. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri. Hopefully I can add some more to that in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Jämmerdalen Hantverksbryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So this brewery were founded back in 2016, and as I mentioned, they're based in Kalix in the very north of Sweden. But the brewery is run by Johan Åkerman and Jenny Rönnbeck, and they brew mainly Belgian and sour styles of beer. So they started off with a very small 250 litre brewery kit, and the first beers were produced in 2017 for just pubs in the local area. But their beers entered Systembolaget in early 2018, and then Jenny and Johan are working their regular jobs as well as doing the brewery part-time. But they do hope that eventually they can work full-time in the brewery, and they have plans to move into a new premises at some point soon. In 2019 they produced around 5,000 litres of beer, so as I say, very small scale, but they are, as far as I can see, I don't know if they had any regular types of beer. I think pretty much all of them were sour beers of some description, so it's, you know, brewing small batches and you know, putting them in the barrels to age, so it's quite a lot of work. It's quite time intensive, if you like, but yeah, they produced about 5,000 litres across 2019, and they're hoping to produce more this year in 2020, and they so far have 19 different varieties of beer according to Untappd. So yeah, the artwork you'll find on the beers as well is designed by Anna Andersson, who is a childhood friend of Jenny, and she runs her own tattoo shop. So yeah, some pretty cool artwork, I have to say. on these beers. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri just now. These guys must be one of the smallest scale sour beer breweries around. You know, I'm thinking back in Scotland we had Vault City, who probably would have been smaller than this until recently. They're brewing up at 71 Brewing in Dundee just now. But I think this is cool. We're seeing more breweries starting off actually brewing the sour beer, which is great. And I mean, in Sweden we do have a good selection of sour beers these days. We've got Brekeriet, who of course are the kind of original ones. We had Tempo, we've got Moyendagens, Wizard, there's a few other breweries, you know, Stigbergets are doing some sours these days. You know, there's Pang Pang in Stockholm have been doing some sour beers. You know, there's quite a lot of breweries having a go at these now. Temple in Uppsala as well have some great stuff, and Örebro Brewhus as well. You know, there's a great selection of sour beer breweries here in Sweden now, which is great. And when you've got 400 breweries in the whole country, you know, this, you know, it has to be. You know, there's going to be some really good ones here, and as I say, it's very cool to find such a small scale sour beer brewery as well, but their beers are available nationwide, which is awesome. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Jämmerdalen Hantverksbryggeri for the moment. That's all I'm really able to tell you, to be honest. There's all you can check, if you want to learn more about them, you can check out their website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Beer Advocate and Untappd pages for the brewery as well. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer. I'm really curious to see what this has in store. There you can see the artwork on this one. It's really quite nice. I have to say the artwork, you know, it doesn't actually, it looks more like a kind of painting rather than a kind of drawing thing. So I wonder, you know, Anna Anderson, maybe she's got a few different skills as well. You know, she can probably tattoo, paint and draw, I guess you'd say, but that looks more like it's been painted and then kind of reprinted on the bottle, which is pretty cool. But there you can see, there is the there you can see on the back there's a little thing, grape is not the same as grapefruit. So yeah, definitely, we all know that. I do wonder about this. This is the top of the beer. I do wonder if it was meant to have a bottle cap on it. I can't remember what the other ones I had from these guys before, if they had bottle caps or if it was just a straight up cork. But yeah, it says on the front here, a sour wheat wine fermented with muscat grapes, grape juice and aged in oak barrels. That's what's grape juice they've used. But yeah, it looks very nice, this, as I say, really nicely presented. This is this a 375 millilitres, so yeah, it should be good. So without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the taste. I'm really curious to see what this one has in store for us. And hopefully this isn't going to be a pain to get out. Oh no, it is gripping, there we go. So yeah, these guys did actually, it must have been one of the beers that was taken out of my basket online, because sometimes when you do the orders with Systembolaget, sometimes when you do the orders with Systembolaget, some of the beers are not fully available, and I'm not sure exactly what the reason for that is. Okay, we're going to have to, not sure how we're going to do this because the cork isn't fully out. But yeah, sometimes they put the beers in the order, because they had a tripel, they were releasing a tripel in April 2020, and it was actually one of those I wanted to get. But then this beer was recommended, and oh, this is going to be a disaster to get open, look at this, I've made a mess of this. But yeah, this beer, this was the one that was recommended, as I say, but I couldn't get the, unfortunately I couldn't get hold of the tripel. The tripel wasn't in the order, so I'm guessing that was one of the ones that was taken out of the order. There we go, we should hopefully get it this time. There we go, made a mess of that. But yeah, oh, this, you can tell as soon as you open this up, it smells very nice. But yeah, I'll need to look and see if the tripel is available, and I might order that for next month, as I say. This beer I think cost me 90 Swedish crowns, so what's that, it's about 10 euros maybe? No, I think it will be, I think it will be 9 euros, because it's about, yeah, 10 crowns per euro, so about 9 euros for this bottle. And that'll be somewhere in the region like £7.50 or something like that. So yeah, so it was a little bit more pricey, but I mean, when it's a sour beer you are going to pay more So yeah, and I mean for 90 crowns for a big sour wheat wine like this, you know, it's a treat, that's it. You just need to look at it like that. I'm not going to complain. The prices for what this beer is, I think, is pretty decent. So yeah, as you can see with this one, this is poured a lovely kind of pale golden straw colour. It's almost the same colour as like a you know, a German Helles or something like this. It's got that nice, in terms of its appearance, I would say it looks most like a kind of Munich Helles or something like that. Lovely kind of pale golden straw colour. You can see there was about a quarter finger of a white head on this one. That's faded away just to be a very thin foamy layer, which is kind of what you would expect when the beer is, you know, when the beer is 10.4%. Higher alcohol beers do tend to struggle to retain the head a little bit, especially sour beers. So this one is kind of an imperial sour, I guess you could say. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but you can see a few of the little ones just going up towards the kind of thin foamy layer there, which is very, very nice. But yeah, I like how this, I really like how this goes together. It looks very nice. I wasn't sure if I was expecting this one to be a little bit darker, but when it's a wheat wine, I've had a couple of wheat wines from Japan actually. One from St. Gallen Brewery, I'm sure. Dyson, I'm sure I had one or two from Dyson G Beer and one from Baird Beer as well. So I've only ever had wheat wines, I think, from Japan, but I know that there's a few of them out on the west coast in America. I've never tried any of the American ones. So a wheat wine is very unusual, I think, for me as a beer style, but particularly so in Europe. I don't know any breweries actually over here that do wheat wines. So if you're watching and you happen to know, do recommend me some European wheat wines. That would be an interesting thing to try. But yeah, it looks very nice, this beer. Not out with the realms of possibility for a sour beer, of course. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma of this one then and see how we get on. A sour wheat wine with muscat grape juice. That actually, it smells very, very nice and very smooth. It's not, I mean, I've always felt that, you know, with sour beers, they're not the most complex things in terms of flavour, but it's all about how they make the transition and how they smooth out. I think that's the key thing for me when it comes to sour beers, is just how you can go from that really tart, puckering flavour at the beginning and just how the beer sort of smooths out and goes into the aftertaste. It's all about the transition of the flavour for me when it comes to sour beers. But yeah, with this one you've got a lovely kind of sharp citrusy note in the beginning, then it really smooths out and you start to get the kind of green, white, grapey notes from the muscat grapes. These muscat grapes, they almost smell a little bit more kind of herbal or earthy or something like that. But underneath you can smell the lovely woody notes out of the beer. You can smell a little bit of that vanilla oaky note. The oak also comes out as being just a little touch spicy, I think. There is almost just a wee teeny bit of a brown sugar or something to this beer. Like, you know, a little bit of a kind of, you know, biscuity kind of quality, which is nice. So I really like how this, I really like how all of this goes together. I mean, it's quite, the aroma on this beer, I think, generally is quite mild, but it's got everything that you would kind of expect if you know the style. You can pick up a bit of the wheaty breadiness from the original kind of wheat wine brew in there. You've got a bit of that kind of oaky woodiness. As I say, for me the oakiness comes out a bit spicy. You've got a little bit of a kind of oaty, not oaty, a little bit of a kind of vanilla type quality. I'm thinking you do get a little bit of that kind of sweet vanilla note from the wood in there, and there is a wee bit of a kind of grassy floral type thing as well, which you will have hops in this beer, but it'll either be old hops or low alpha acid hops that are in this one. So you do have a little bit of grassiness out of this and a wee touch of an earthy kind of thing as well, which is quite nice. But I like the kind of white, greeny, grapey sort of things. Yeah, I do like the kind of white, greeny, grapey kind of side of things. You can smell some of the booziness in this. You've got a lovely kind of wheaty quality as well, which is it's quite, as I say, the grapes in this are a little bit more kind of, they just smell a little bit more earthy or herbal or something like this. This is a really interesting aroma. It's one that's making me think a little bit. I'm trying to think just how to describe it, but I think overall you get a little bit of the sharpness out of the aroma of this one, then it's mainly about the woodiness and the kind of juiciness. So the aroma, as I say, it's not the most complex of things, but you have got a few different bits in there which are nice. The wood is a bit more spicy. I think that's one of the kind of quirkier things. You've got a nice bit of fresh grassiness to it as well. Lovely kind of light grapes, but they're a little bit more herbal and slightly earthy, I think, as well. So yeah, a wee bit of a biscuity sweetness in there, and the lovely kind of vanilla oaky type qualities as well. So take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, but don't linger on it too long. The sour beers, I think, are more about the flavour transition than anything else. But yeah, let's have a look at this. This is the Father of Serpents, a 10.4% sour wheat wine from Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri in Kalix in the very north of Sweden. I think that would be Norrbotten, or I don't know if that would be Lapland. I forget what the counties are up there. But let's get stuck in. Sláinte, skål. Ooh, that is nice. I will say though, carbonation on this is a little active. Yeah, make sure with this one you take very small sips in the beginning, because the carbonation is just a little bit active in this. But yeah, this is nice. When you take it in, it's actually I find it very sweet. It is a little bit puckering, but not as puckering as some of the ones that I've come across before. It would be interesting to try this beer on tap, actually, because it really comes across as very sort of wet in the mouthfeel. So I wonder if on the tap it would feel just a little bit thicker or something. But yeah, this is definitely a sipper. This beer, if you take sips of it, it is actually very, very nice. I like how this goes together. I mean, thumbs up to Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri again. I mean, if nothing else, these guys create really, really interesting beers, and the beers that I've had from these guys before have been really nice. I think the first one was the Grand Cru, and the last one was the Bekhest. This one, as I say, a sour wheat wine, and the one that I want to get is the Trippel, so I need to check whether that's available, as I mentioned. But this is nice, actually. This gets a thumbs up from me. If I was drinking this, if I was drinking it blind without knowing what it was, I think I might struggle to say it was a wheat wine, to be honest with you. That's one of the interesting things about it. But I mean, the reason for that might be that I've not had too many wheat wines. But I would have thought with this one, it still feels at 10.4%. It's an imperial sour. But then, if it's a wheat wine, you expect a little bit more of a kind of breadiness to it. But this beer, it still has that typically kind of light mouthfeel and drinkability that you would expect of a sour beer generally. But the grapey side of this beer is really, really very nice. So let's try and break the flavour of this one down a little bit and just see how we get on. So in the middle of the palate then, you can feel straight away that nice kind of woody quality, that the oakiness just blankets the middle of the tongue. As you go further into the aftertaste, that dries out a little bit and you can feel a wee bit of a spicy note in the beer. If you go towards the back of the palate, you can pick up some of the you can definitely pick up some more of the kind of spicy, woody, some of the spiciness from the oak. It's not too spicy. I mean, don't get me wrong, the spiciness out of the beer isn't quite minimal, but just the oak isn't quite as smooth as you'll get in some of the other sour beers. It does just have a wee bit of a spicy quality to it. Some of the wheaty notes, you can feel the wheat pushing its way out towards the back of the palate as well. And as you come further forward on the tongue, you do get a little bit of a kind of biscuity quality of the beer, like a little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of thing. And then as you reach the sort of front part of your palate, as I say, I always find the tongue is split into sort of 3/3, if you like. So you've got back third, which is your, where you'll get some of your more wheaty, bitey notes. The middle, where you'll get the real kind of sweetness out of the beer, and then the front, where you'll get the fruitiness. So if you're in this kind of middle third, that's where you start to get the kind of almost biscuity sweetness out of the beer. And then as you reach the front part, the top part of that third, that's where you start to get some of the little vanilla qualities out of the beer. So there is a wee bit of vanilla in this one, and it really starts to come out more in the aftertaste. You've seen how long it was since I took a sip of this beer. I'm really starting to get a few bits of the vanilla out of this beer now, and then in front of that, of course, it's the fruity side of things. But the way everything goes together in this beer is really quite nice, actually. It's as I say, sour beers for me, it's about how they make that transition from being really sharp and puckering in the beginning to just smoothing out and being, just smoothing out and being very nice, actually. That's what a sour beer is all about for me. Yeah, I like how this one, I do like how this one goes together. Um, it's the sort of smooth and sweet side of this one is, it just sort of, it does it really, really well. I mean, I would have expected it to just be a little bit more wheaty with it being a wheat wine, but as I say, my sort of preconceptions about this style are not that, they're not too cemented, if you like. But you always do expect a sour beer to be a little bit lighter in its mouthfeel. Whenever you barrel age something, of course, it is going to get lighter in the mouthfeel because you get more of these infused flavours and things like that. So yes, sour beers always do tend to feel a little bit lighter in their mouthfeel, but the way all of the malty and barrel aging side of this beer goes together is very, very nice. Let's look at the hoppy kind of side of things then. So in the back corners of the palate, you do get there is a wee tiny touch of earthiness in there. As you come further forward along the side of the tongue, that really, the sort of earthy herbal kind of thing, it just smoothens out. You get a wee teeny bit of floral quality on the front corners of the palate, then round the very front curve of the tongue, it is just a little bit lighter and grassy. I think I've got a feeling that they would have used older hops in this one rather than not using any hops at all. Some breweries just don't use the hops, but I think you have to use. They do use like quite a bit older, lower alpha acid hops. Maybe some Belgian hops or English hops, or even sometimes the German noble hops and the Czech Sats and things can be very good hops for these beers. But you do definitely have a little bit of grassiness and floral quality around the edge of the tongue, so I think there will be some hops in this beer, but just older ones. And of course, when the beer is barrel aged as well, a lot of the hoppy character is going to drop out of it, but you can detect a little bit of a hop quality to this one. I do find the more and more that I drink of this beer, the more and more I like it. This is really one that grows on me a lot. And I liked it in the beginning, but I'm liking it more and more as I drink it. It's definitely a sipper. I want to just kind of sit and enjoy and ponder a little bit. It's like that. This isn't like, compared to the other sour beers I've had, this one really is quite different, to be honest with you. But yeah, the fruity side of things then, let's look at that. So yeah, when you take the beer in, you've got a really nice sharp kind of citricy character to this beer. You also have that lemony citric tartness there, but then the grape, the sort of, I think muscat grapes, if I remember, they're kind of more white than green or anything like that. If I remember rightly, they are kind of more white coloured grape. But yeah, when you take this in, you really get the sharp sort of citricy character, which will be from the Lactobacillus Brettanomyces, whatever type of sour bacteria, sour yeast or whatever you want to call it that they're using. So you really get that. Then the beer, the front of your palate just really juices up very nicely. You get those lovely white grapey notes. You get a little bit of an apple-y kind of, more of a peary ester, that sort of lingers there into the aftertaste as well. But it's really nice how all of these things, how all of those things just kind of go together. Actually, it's the front fruity part of the palate there, that does stay there. Some of the citricy notes are there lingering at almost on the very front tip, but then the juicy kind of white grapey notes and the almost like peary esters lingering there are also very, very nice. The further you go into the aftertaste, more of the kind of vanilla side of the wood comes out, I think, and you do start to get a little bit more of the wheaty quality. A little bit the wheat's almost got a little bit of spice to it. You get that, pardon me, towards the back of the palate too, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I really like how this beer goes together. Actually, it's very, very nicely done in my opinion. So yeah, the flavour of this is really very nice. It's quite a quirky beer, this. and very different to other sours that I've had. This is the first sour wheat wine that I've ever come across, and this one certainly hasn't disappointed. What I would say to you is, when you drink this beer, don't be prepared to be like blown away by it like right away. You have to kind of let it open up and let your mouth adjust to it to fully kind of appreciate what it's going for. But this is another very, very good beer from Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri. It's a bit of a shame that these guys aren't producing a little bit more, but I mean, I guess it's like anything else, they are going to scale up over time. But I think on the basis of this beer, these guys have got they've got a good future ahead of them if they can get the financial security to go for it. You know, that's the big question, is whether they are going to be able to quit their full-time jobs and invest their time in the brewery. But the quality of the beer is certainly there, in my opinion. It's just a case of you know, getting the recognition and being able to go for it. But I think they are very, very capable in my mind, and if they're trying styles like sour trip ales and wheat wines and stuff, you know, they've got that kind of creative character that you need to survive in the craft beer market these days. So thumbs up to Jämmerdalen again. They've pulled off a nice beer here, in my opinion. It's quite different, as I say, from other sours that I've come across. I'm surprised at how light and drinkable this beer is for a 10.4%er, but it is very good in my opinion. So this is a brewery to watch if you're interested in sour beer breweries. So yeah, I need to see if I can get a hold of that trip ale. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, I'd say that this is one of the thicker. It's one of the thicker sour beers that I've come across recently. The carbonation, I think, is quite active in this one. Although now that when I first took it in, you know, you could feel it kind of frothing up in the mouth a little bit. But now it's just at a nice level. So I think most of the carbonation that was kind of stuck in there from when we opened it up is gone. So this beer, it actually, after that, you've got a little bit of carbonation, but it really comes across as quite nice and oily. In terms of IBUs, I think you'd be lucky to get about 20 IBUs out of this at most. There is a little bit of hoppiness to the beer, and you do get a wee bit of a kind of zestiness around the kind of front edge of the palate with the grassy side of the beer. So you've got that with this one too. So yeah, there is a wee bit of a hoppy presence to this one, a couple of IBUs to it. The malt base and woody kind of things are very, very smooth and quite sweet actually. And you've also got you've got a lovely kind of juicy fruitiness to this from the grape juice, in my mind, that's been added into the beer. So I like how this, I really like how the flavours in this one go together. The mouthfeel, as I say, is quite oily for a sour beer in my mind, but it really suits it, and of course you're going to get that when it's higher in alcohol percentage. 10.4% makes this an imperial sour without any question, I think, so you do expect it to be a little bit more oily. So overall, I would say the oiliness of this beer, or this beer, has quite an oily mouthfeel. Nice little bit of hoppiness, as I say, about 20 IBUs, little bit of a kind of balance between smoothness and sweetness in the malt base, and you've also got just a wee bit of a kind of fruity, juicy type quality to this one as well. So yeah, I like how this goes together actually. This is very, very nice. So yeah, big thumbs up to Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri for this one. The father of Serpents, a 10.4% sour wheat wine, which is just a bit crazy in my mind. A very, very nice beer this. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Thank you again to Eric Bengtsson for the recommendation. I think we kind of were thinking along the same lines with this beer, but you will see me return to this brewery fairly soon if I can get a hold of their trip ale beer. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri as well, and no doubt we will return to these guys at some point fairly soon. Thank you again for watching my reviews, and I'll catch you guys very soon. This one was the Father of Serpents, a 10.4% sour wheat wine from Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri in Kalix, in the very north of Sweden. Slanje, skål, cheers, make sure you check out Jämmerdalen Handverksbryggeri.